Today I'm going to share what I think is probably one of the most important concepts that you need to understand as a business owner if your goal is to build financial and time freedom. And the concept that we're going to talk about today is called the velocity of money. And I'm going to bet that some of you have heard of this, but most of you probably have not heard about it, because I think this concept or this way of thinking when it comes to wealth creation is not one that you're going to hear people talk about most of the time, because it's so different than the traditional employee mindset, the employee mentality of earning a salary and putting money into retirement and hoping one day to be able to retire. Honestly, this concept is something that my highest net worth clients employ frequently. So today I'm going to explain to you what this concept is, and I'm going to give you some background on how my husband and I are factoring this into our own wealth strategy, and ultimately what it means for you as a business owner and how you can take this concept and start deploying it in your own business and your own overall financial and wealth strategy. This is the Profit and Prosper podcast, the podcast where I will teach you how to take home a six-figure paycheck from your business without having to sacrifice your life today. So first question is, what even is the velocity of money? What does this mean? I think this is a really cool concept, and it is a very different way of viewing income and asset creation and wealth strategy that honestly it was not something that ever crossed my family's mind when I was growing up. And it's only that as I have, grown my own business and started putting myself in different types of rooms with people who just think differently about money that I even realized it was a thing. So the phrase velocity of money actually, I believe, was coined by Robert Kiyosaki, who, if you don't know who that is, he's the Rich Dad, Poor Dad guy. The concept was not created by him. I think he coined the phrase, and I really like it. I feel like it explains, kind of gives an idea of what it is pretty well. Side note, I think this is funny. I actually went to his website a couple months ago because I thought about recording this podcast episode, and I was trying to confirm that he did in fact kind of come up with that term, and I didn't sign up for anything on his website, but somehow ever since then I have gotten 2 emails a day every single day, and even though I've tried to unsubscribe from his emails multiple times. So keep that in mind, I guess, if you're gonna go to the Rich Dad Poor Dad website. Robert Kiyosaki, I would say, is one of those people who's like the guy that everybody talks about, the baby steps. Maybe my podcast team can put his name up on the side. I feel like he's kind of in that same bucket for me where, I like some of the overall concepts that he teaches. I don't necessarily think that they resonate as well with a younger generation. And so I think we can take some of the best concepts and then figure out, how do we apply this to our lives and our values today? For example, something that I know he talks about a lot is like oil and gas investments, and that's not personally something that I want to invest money into, but again, to each their own. So the velocity of money is basically this concept of reusing the same bucket of money to keep building more and more income streams and to keep making more and more money over time. Let's say that you have $50,000 in cash that you have sitting there and you want to invest into something, and your goal is to make as much money as you can off of this investment in a way that is passive. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your $50,000 and use it to invest into something. It could be buying a business. It could be putting it into real estate, into a retirement account, into anything, right? That is an asset that's going to make you more money over time. So you invest the money into an asset, and then that asset starts producing cash flow. So in the form of real estate, that cash flow could be rental income. If it's a business, obviously that cash flow is going to come from profit from the business. If you have retirement accounts or brokerage account, that cash flow is going to be interest, dividends, just gains on your stock, for example. But basically, you're going to put the money into an asset that produces more money. And this concept of the velocity of money basically is asking you to consider, how can I make my money back, my original $50,000 that I put in? How fast can I make that money back? Because the faster you make your money back, the faster you can take it from the business, right? get your $50,000 back. You still own the business or the real estate or whatever it is, and that continues to produce cash flow, but you get your principal back, and then you can go do it again. And then you just keep repeating that over and over and over again until you have a bunch of different assets all producing you income streams. And this is where I think true wealth comes from. Because the more assets that you own, the more income streams you produce, and the faster you can get your money to come back to you, the wealthier you are. Because if you do have true velocity of money, then basically you are going to be producing an income regardless of the work you put in. And this is where true time freedom is, which is really what people, I think, mean when they say they want wealth. But this mindset is really so different than what most of us were raised even thinking about, right? Because the traditional mindset, the employee mindset, basically says that the best way to become wealthy is to save. The velocity of money says the best way to become wealthy is to deploy your capital, which is a fancy way of saying make investments, but it's to put your money into assets that are going to produce you income streams and finding the places that are going to get you a return the fastest. All right, so now that you have some understanding of what the velocity of money even is, I'm going to give you a little backstory about why I'm talking about this. So about 2 months ago, I think early to mid-August, my husband bought another business. And so I haven't really talked about this much on social media or on the podcast because it's not my business, it's really his. But if you've been around for a while, you know that we bought another accounting firm to roll up under Young & Co. last August 2023. So I think it's funny that he bought another business in August 2024. I'm sensing a pattern. And I'm not involved in running it. It's just not something that I care to take on, needed to be involved with. I would say it's also not nearly as big as the accounting firm we bought. It's a lot smaller, but it is an online business. So there's really no team. It's all digital. And it just really got me thinking. We were having this conversation about our overall wealth strategy. You know, we like to talk about money stuff a lot. And it just got me thinking about the velocity of money. And basically, my philosophy for my own wealth strategy is I like to think of my money in 2 different buckets, and I want to make sure that I have both buckets covered. I think that you as a business owner can take the same strategy, the same concept, and apply it to your own overall wealth strategy as well. So the 2 buckets of money that I really want to have in my life are my oh shit bucket, which you've probably heard me talk about. This is my money that is put into low risk investments that aren't going to give me as much of a return over time, but it's basically my money that is there in case we have what I would call an oh shit moment and everything else fails miserably. At least I'll be left with this money. And so my money here is really what we would have in our cash emergency funds and then in my pretty standard retirement account and brokerage accounts. So you've heard me say before, I like to put money into my retirement and brokerage accounts, just sort of the minimum, so that this is my fallback money. So when I'm retirement age and I don't want to work anymore, you know, currently I'm on track with putting very minimal investments into my retirement. I will have over $1 million in these accounts by the time I am 60 or 65. And that's in today's money. So in future money, I'll have more, but cost of living will also be higher. I'll have the equivalent of $1 million invested, which is kind of my floor for how much I'm comfortable with having in these lower risk types of investment accounts. So that's bucket number 1. This is my safety fund, right? But bucket number 2 is my velocity of money bucket. This is the money that my husband and I both want to have so that we can go make those investments, because if there's one thing that I have learned from being around high net worth individuals, people who have very large businesses, people who were born with lots of money, people who were self-made millionaires and multimillionaires, it's that these people are not smarter than you or I. They're just people, right? It's not that they necessarily even work harder, although they certainly do work hard. It's that they just think about money and business so differently than most people do. They don't think about money and business in terms of trading time for money, for like working to get $1, right? They think about it in terms of what can I use? What resources do I have that I can use to put into an investment and then make money without me having to work for it? They detach their ability to make money from their time, and that is time freedom. So that second bucket of money is the velocity of money bucket, to where we have cash that we can deploy for things like my husband buying that other business. And according to our models, we will safely, or he will, I guess, because it's his, but he will safely get that money back in 1 to 2 years. And then he will have an asset because he's put some work into, cleaning it up and streamlining things, and will continue to do so. But he will have an asset that generates him thousands of dollars a month with very little input that is required from him. And so the more times that you do this, or the bigger that you can build that asset up in order to maximize the amount of money coming from it, that is where we generate time freedom. Because like I said, we're detaching our money-making ability from our time that we put into actually doing the work. So what does this mean for you as a business owner, and what can you take away from this? I'll kind of go back to what my husband and I were talking about a couple months ago when he was in the process of buying this business. We kind of realized that for each of us individually, we complement each other nicely. Although for me, I personally want to be able to have my own assets all completely under my name, and him as well. Although we, of course, help each other and build each other up. Like, we work together, we partner, but I also want to make sure that I'm covered just in the event that something happens to him or something happens to us. Like, I want to be okay either way, and that's really important to me. I think that should be a priority for every woman listening to this right now. But I realized that my husband, actually has a pretty solid oh shit fund already built up, and he is working on his velocity of money bucket by buying this business and doing a couple other things that he's doing. I'm kind of the opposite. I have really what I would think of as like the bare minimum in my oh shit fund. I feel like I should come up with another name for this. We don't have to flag every podcast episode with an E, but it is what it is. I have kind of the bare minimum of what I'm comfortable with in that bucket. I would like more, and it is a priority for me right now to take on less risky investments in order to build that up more, right? But I already have my velocity of money bucket because I have not one, but really 3 different businesses right now that are generating me cash flow, and that I'm working to continue to scale up. And so what I think you can take from this is that, as someone who is a business owner who has presumably already sold a good bit of their offers already, you might already have a team in place, you are already on your way to having your velocity of money bucket filled up. You just need to learn how to maximize it. So if we think about the steps to building up your velocity of money fund, step number 1 is to invest in an asset, which you already have. You can put a check by that one because you already have a business. Okay, so that's step number 1, already done, whether you thought of it that way or not. Step number 2 is that asset, aka your business or whatever else you invest in, needs to make you money. And a lot of people really get stuck in this place because you view your business as a way to create another paycheck for yourself, right? You really are self-employed and not a true business owner, because if you don't optimize your business, if you don't take the time to create the systems and processes to allow it to run without you, then I would say it's not truly a business, and it's really just an income stream. It's a paycheck, right? And so I know most of you listening to this would love to move yourself from that self-employed bucket over into the business owner bucket. And that's really probably the step that you're on, is how do you implement the structures and the systems in order to put money in, run it through your lead generation and client delivery systems, and out comes even more money. That is how you create the velocity of money, right? I put in $50,000, out comes $500,000. That is a win in my book. Now, for the velocity of money to be true, then you would need to be able to put cash into your business. For you, you've probably put cash into it, or you've invested a lot of time into it in order to eventually get that original investment back so that you can redeploy it, either put it back again into your business or put it into another asset. So you could be here, you could have a business that generates a very healthy profit margin. You're just not sure how to move to the next step or how to do it again. And so, like I said, this is where you would make the decision of, is it a better use of my money to put it back through my business and build it up to the next level? This is where you have to decide if you're basically the lifetime value of your customers, like what you're going to make if you bring on another customer, is going to exceed the cost that it takes you to acquire that customer. And I think if we aren't clear on those numbers, we aren't clear on the process to bring that in on a rinse and repeat basis, then you're probably stuck here not totally sure what the best use of your money is. And we'll talk about that some more in just a second. Or you might be in a place where you don't necessarily want to put cash back into your business again. You want to start investing into other things, and you might be unsure, should I invest it into my retirement accounts or should I invest it into another type of asset? But then, of course, the idea is that you keep doing that over and over again. Your business makes an income. Any other assets that you invest in make an income. You get your principal back, and you keep deploying it over and over again to build up your income streams. What I want you to take away from this really is just the concept, for one, getting this idea in your head, shifting the way that you view your wealth strategy and your business. If your goal is truly to build financial and time freedom, then we've got to come up with a way to detach your ability to make money from your time. And I think investing into assets, including your business, to build your business in a way that it can generate money independently of you showing up every single day to keep running it. That is how we build true financial and time freedom. Okay, so your next step is going to be to figure out, where are you in this process? Is your business making you enough money to do this? Are you ready to scale it up? Do you have the systems in place in order to do that? Or are you ready to start investing into other assets outside of your business? I would say really high level, I don't want to dive too deep into what your next investment should be. But I think that if your business is not generating minimum six-figure income, like profit, take-home pay, then you probably want to keep focusing on building up your business and growing your revenue, but also your profitability until you get there. Because honestly, I think that's going to be where you're going to find the best return on your time and on your money. Before you go and start trying to do a ton of other things, stay focused on building up that first income stream, because that is going to enable you to do, lots of other things. There's people out there who say that you really shouldn't do anything else until your business is at 7 figures. And I would say, yes, I can see building a 7-figure business being really useful, but I would say at a bare minimum, let's get your business to the point where it's generating you a 6-figure take-home pay, because to me, putting that much time and energy into something is probably, and risk, taking on the risk, is probably not going to be worth it unless you get that sort of payoff. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, yes, my goal is to be able to take home that kind of money, to be able to turn your business into a true business, into an asset that has systems that can run and make money without you while still serving your clients and still having an impact, I really think the best and fastest way to do that is going to be by implementing a high ticket offer, which I'm not going to go into right now. You probably heard me talk about that enough over the last several weeks, but I really truly think from my own experience that the fastest way to get there is to implement a high ticket offer. All right, so that is it for this episode, y'all. I hope that this at least opened to your mind to maybe a different way of thinking about your business and your wealth strategy, and that you have some ideas or things that you can go and work on and prioritize in your own business in order to actually work toward financial and time freedom. One last request: if you have listened to my podcast, or if you're on my YouTube channel and you have gotten any kind of value out of what I'm providing out of my content, please go and leave me a 5-star review. Make sure you subscribe to the channel wherever you listen, and help me just spread the word and make sure that we can give more people more business and money education so they can ultimately reach financial and time freedom. All right, so that's it for today, y'all. I'll see you back next week.